All right, guys, what's going on out there? I'm really excited. We have a cool segment we're going to be doing this morning. And, with me today, we have Kim and we have Jeff. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
One of the things that in most work cultures, as well as careers, that I've seen over the past 15 years is that people typically don't spend enough time on their actual personal and leadership development. So, with me today, I have some experts in this, and I want to talk to you first about that, Jeff. Talk to us a little bit more about, obviously Prepared Leader and just what you're seeing out there and how people can really grow.
So I'll tell you from my experiences, I spent my 20s and 30s not working on my leadership development. And when you see the difference, when you start working it like that, it's a game changer.
Right.
I would say 95% of people aren't working on that.
Right.
So I would say whether if you get a degree in chemistry or in marketing,
yeah,
and you get really good at that, you're going to get promoted for that, for being good. But you're lacking in your leadership. And that's one of the biggest problems out there today in the workplace. You have people leading other people that don't know how to lead.
Right.
It's not because they're bad people. It's because they haven't been trained. And it's not a training that you can go to a course for 3 days and all of a sudden you're a great leader.
Right.
This is a consistent effort that needs to happen on a regular basis, daily almost, to some degree. Right. But certainly at a weekly level, how are you getting better each day?
What about the people that are watching this that are going to say, well, I'm not a leader in my current role, so why should I learn and develop as a leader then?
Well, that's the reason to actually do that, so that when you are a leader, you're actually prepared to lead other people. And the reality is you're leading something. At the very least, you're leading yourself. And how are you doing
your
that?
Family, if you have a family,
exactly.
Yeah. It's almost like when you hear people say, like, I'm not in sales, right? And everybody's selling something.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, everyone's a little bit of a salesman.
Yeah.
I always find that, when it's kind of like something that's not learned. It's not something you go to school for. Like you said, you can't take a course, but how are you going to, as a person, just grow? And if you don't have that leadership skill, it means you're a follower. So that's always what we're learning in high school. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. You have to be a leader in your own world. You have to propel yourself to that next level in any industry.
That's exactly right. And I think people know, what they have to do. There's so much good content out there, whether it's Simon Sinek, John Maxwell, Brene Brown, but you need coaching to be able to close the gap between the knowing and the doing.
Yeah.
And that's really where people say coaching, like that's for executives.
Right.
That's for high level business owners. But if you flip the script, what do we do with our young athletes? We get them young. We get them private coaches when they're really young to excel at their sport. Or their music career or their theater career.
Right.
But we don't think to do that, when we actually get into our careers.
Right.
And then if it's like high performance coaching versus executive coaching.
Right.
And that's really not that much in the marketplace today. There are people that do it, but I think they always skew to the executives because that's what pays the bills.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. It's just about investing in yourself at the end of the day.
It's exactly
and they say, listen, there's the best investment on earth besides earth. Right, besides real estate, they say, is in yourself. Right, if you're not growing, you're not developing, then you're stuck. And I think that's the worst thing as any professional. I don't care if you're working at corporate company or if you're working at Best Buy. Right, at the end of the day, the way that you continue to grow is by leading. And you said something really, really good before, where you said, hey, some of these things, like it's like that saying, like, you can pay for school, but you can't buy class, right?
Yes, that's true.
It's like, right? It's like, but at the end of the day, like, you can go to the best colleges. Like, I have a good friend of mine that went to Stanford, and he knows this. So, like, I know he's watching, but he is somebody who is super, super book smart, can just think in so many scenarios, but as a leader, like he's like, that's my downfall, because like to him, he's somebody who never grew up in the household like that, didn't look at it as important. And he's like, if I could do anything over again, I'd go back and I would take leadership courses earlier and grow as a leader earlier, so that, because now he's in positions and he lost a potential huge position with a huge salary position increase because of his inability to lead. He's good at doing the job himself, but he can't lead, so they passed up the opportunity to somebody else. So having that said, when you think about circumstances like that, that's why it's important early to really learn and to get yourself in that mindset of, hey, I want to learn how to be a leader. Even if right now you're not in that position to being a leader, it's going to help you long term, because eventually one day maybe you have a family, maybe you get married. At the end of the day, you have to lead something, right? And like you said, at least right now you're leading yourself, and where you're leading yourself, who knows, right?
Mhm.
I was listening to this podcast, and in this podcast, this guy was talking about how it was about finances, right? And he was talking about how over 90% of people actually don't know financial literacy and the mechanics behind finances, to the level of like, if you ask them, like, hey, like if I was like, hey Kim, like what's like, your dream life if you were rich, most people answer with the platonic, well, I want, just to do things when I want to do them, and like freedom. And like, well, that's not an actual answer. Like, what are those things? So back to leadership, it's like at the end of the day, you have to start planting those seeds so that, later it's like investing. People who Warren Buffett is the most successful investor in the world because he invested 70 years ago and kept it in those accounts, and they compounded. So it was long term, right? So leadership, I believe, is the same thing, and professional development, leadership, professional, all those different things. So, but with that said, the good news is that you have something going on.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's coming up.
I think we all have something.
So,
going on.
actually, yes, we all
we got plans.
You're hosting something, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I think, leadership is for the taking. So
Yeah.
there's such a ripe opportunity out there, particularly for the next generation, young millennials, Generation Z for sure, in the workplace today.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about financial literacy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leadership events out there. There are a lot of financial literacy events out there.
Right.
But there's no event that's going to combine those two things, plus personal branding,
Totally.
plus health and wellness.
Right.
That's exactly where I was going with it. It's just, Jeff and I have talked about this before. I mean, we're all in different points of our life, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, we're all in different places. We all have different family styles. We are all coming from different backgrounds. But Jeff and I have definitely, we've definitely settled on one thing, that you cannot grow forward if you are not, I guess, just whole. If you are not healthy, you cannot move forward. If you are not financially stable, you cannot move forward. There are always going to be these things that hinder you from growing forward. And until you have found that place where you are fulfilled, you cannot, I guess, progress. I'm assuming, I mean, better than me. You have a few years on me and more experience, and you are the leader. So I will defer to you.
Exactly. Well, that's what happens. I've been on a health and wellness journey for a few years now.
Yeah.
And the dramatic difference for an office job, and for coaching,
Right.
you wouldn't think so.
Right.
But, you get up and you train like an athlete.
Right.
Right. And, which means hydration and sleep too.
Yeah.
It's not all about going to the gym. It's not all about running or swimming. That's really integral to how well you're going to perform at work. Full stop.
Totally.
And with the financial piece, and a lot of folks are, in debt, whether it's college debt or otherwise. And certainly live that lifestyle myself.
Yep.
And you can't perform at a high level if that's hanging over you.
No. Yeah.
You really can't. And then it's also cyclical. So the idea is, how do you equip people to remove their debt and then turn around and build wealth?
Right.
And it's not about saving, it's not about building a savings account.
Right.
It's actually about building wealth.
Right.
You can't save yourself to success.
Correct.
You have to do other things.
Right.
But that first hallmark is that financial literacy in and of itself.
Yeah.
And then finally, from your experience, branding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you brand yourself?
And how important it is. Yeah.
To separate yourself from the pack.
Correct.
Again, whether you're a marketer, a chemist,
an athlete,
in any way, that's what's going to separate you. But putting this all together, literally delivering it on silver platter. I wish I had something like this when I was 28 years old.
Yeah.
That's when I started my corporate career. Certainly, if I was 22, that would have been even better.
Right.
And that's exactly who we want to equip in our event. That's going to be in Freehold at 618 Restaurant on March 13th at 6 p.m.
It's going to be an amazing event. I'm really excited to speak at it myself. And one of the things I just want to say back to the health component too, right? So all these components are pillars that make you successful, and that's why I'm excited, to not only attend but obviously to speak at your event. And I think one of the things that I, as an entrepreneur early on, never focused on was my health, right? Or any sort of. It was just focusing on building, which I wouldn't take back, right? It was very helpful. Adapting Social wouldn't be here today if I wasn't grinding my face off for 10 plus years before. But, one of the things that I look back on now, during COVID, I put on like 25 pounds, right?
Wow.
And I'm normally a tall, skinny dude. So, I wasn't running around, flying here, driving to the city, driving to Connecticut, going all over the place, doing the things. I was home, right? And eating, I was going to the electric chair and drinking like a fish. And literally, 25 pounds later, I'm sitting there one day, and my wife's like, you look like you put on some weight.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
Look, it wasn't just you. COVID did that
no,
to a few people.
yeah. Thank you, Kim.
It sure
COVID made
did.
me feel better.
Of course.
But you know what though? But my point though is that it was after that I was like, all right, we need to get serious about our health, because I never really even before, when I was like, because normally my sitting weight was like 190, right? And during COVID at my peak, so probably more than 25, but at my peak I was like 230, right? So I put on a lot of weight. And then now I'm like 200, right? So I lost all the weight off, and I got 10 more to go. But
well, I have a registered dietitian if you need one. Little plug for my sister.
Thank you. But actually, we should have her on the podcast. That'd be good.
She'd
There's a lot of
be
people.
tremendous.
Yeah. But anyway, long story short, though, my point though is that I'm like the way that I am now because I'm actually eating healthier and I'm working out
just
better.
Feeling good, waking up, feeling good, motivated.
I feel better now than I did, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And back to the point of these different pillars, I just think it's important in your career. And one thing that most people bypass is the fact that, when you look at people's fulfillment or happiness in their lives and their careers, there's a couple of things that matter, right? Depending upon where you are in your age, range and your marital status. But either, if you're with the right partner, you're typically going to be
or the
fulfilled,
the wrong partner could cause just as much of a mess.
Oh yeah, because it bleeds, right?
Yeah.
So if you're with the wrong partner, then typically you're not in a good space. Then secondly, again, this is by study. Secondly is your health, right? So if your health is in disarray, or it's not a focal point, and you're out, you're eating fast food, you're barely eating or whatever, you're not sleeping properly.
Yeah.
You said sleep before. I had no idea how important sleep was. In theory, obviously, yeah, so you got to sleep, but I was always I'll sleep when I'm dead, right?
Yeah.
I was that guy until I had a kid.
Right.
But I got this that Whoop accessory thing that's like a biometric thing.
Like it
measures, and it tracks your sleep and all that stuff.
And the quality of your sleep.
Correct. And it's a wearable, so there's a million of them out there, but I prefer the Whoop. But my point is that so I started to see my sleep patterns, my heart rate variability, the quality of sleep I was getting. And then I started to understand the importance of sleep, because when it showed me, hey, you got really shit sleep tonight. Obviously, I knew I would have a really super exciting fulfillment day. But when I had or it was tough for me to get there. But when I had a really good night's rest and I saw it and everything was in the green, it was like I felt amazing. I was like, okay, what did I do that day? So anyway, point being is our health is important. It's helped me perform better. It's helped me be in a better space. And then back to, just obviously the whole point of the event is to hit these different pillars. So I'm really excited for it. And again, one more time, where can they go to watch and attend and be, able to see this?
Sure, absolutely. So it's in Freehold, New Jersey at 618 restaurant. It's on March 13th, Wednesday, March 13th at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
One of the things I was just thinking about, just as somebody that maybe you're now hearing about this event, I could tell you that there are going to be people from various industries there, people that may have come from some place where they found their dream job and then they had that fall from grace. They were let go. They're at a crossroads in their career. I know that you're out there and I've heard from you and you are interested in this next chapter. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're somebody that is very happy and you're happy, but you're complacent. You could do better. Maybe you want to bring in more revenue. These are the folks that you're going to want to hear from. And I have to say, I it's a little bit to a fault of mine. I can't help but say yes to these events. No, I've always been this way.
Right.
I've always wanted to, if there's an opportunity to meet folks and rub shoulders with people that know more than me, why would I turn that opportunity down?
That's exactly right.
That's
I'm
a
glad.
good point.
I'm glad you brought that up, because leadership is for everyone. Everyone thinks they think about leadership and they think about the C-suite, right? Or they think about an 8 and 9 figure entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right.
And yes, while they are leaders, leadership is for everyone. So this event is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're in a corporate space. It doesn't matter if you're working in a restaurant. And everything in between, if you're looking to get unstuck, if you're looking to improve, your conditions and circumstances in your life, you have to be here. Because you're going to get the information, the blueprint that you need to be able to go from where you are today and where you want to go.
Yeah, Sean just commented. Link to sign up or register. Yeah, Sean, I'll get you. I'm gonna post it in all these different live streams. So on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all these different places, we'll post it just so you can sign up and get to that event. So thanks for reaching out on that, Sean. But yeah, no, to that point, I think again, like it's one of these things where Kim, you hit the nail on the head. Oh my gosh, when I think about when I was, and still to this day, when I was starting adapting. Right, I was at every networking event.
Super hungry, super hungry.
Right?
I am exactly that way.
For what you just said though, for rubbing shoulders with people you don't know, and what you can
You'd
learn.
be foolish not to come.
Totally. Yeah. One of my mentors, this guy, who's a massive telecom guy back in the day. So right now he's in his 90s, and I met him about like 8 years ago initially, and this guy sold to AT&T for billions, right? And this is back in the day he did. And one of the things that so when I first met him, right, I met him at a networking event. You would never know this guy was this billionaire. Well, he looked like this old guy walking around this event, right? And at that time he was like in his 80s, early 80s. And he just was so open, having conversations with this guy. And long story short, he goes to me, he goes, I would love to have you, come by my office one day. And I was like, all right, yeah, cool. Where are you? He's like, in Connecticut. And this event was in New York. I'm like, we're in Connecticut. It was like 3 hours away. I was like, damn. I was like, all right. Well, I was like, I gotta figure it out. But luckily, I want to make my way down there. And so I'm sitting in a room with this guy, and I see his office. It's like a skyscraper that he owns the whole building, right? And I walk in, and I didn't know that. So I walk in. He didn't tell me any information. Walk in. I start sitting down with this guy, have a conversation, and I start to see his name all over everything. And I'm like, what is this guy? This guy own this building? Like, and I was like, huh. Sit down with him, and he goes, why I brought you here, young fella? And I was like, no. He's like, because I want to learn from you. And I was like, this guy's 90, and he still has that mindset that you have.
That's incredible.
And he said to me, he goes, I'm not foolish enough to know that I have to always be a student of life until I'm not living.
Oh my God.
And I was,
that's absolutely
That's
right.
a leader.
Right?
That's it.
Let's get him on.
Seriously, I mean, that story, typifies exactly what you need, because what happens is, you have folks that get to a leadership position in their careers.
Yeah.
And then they feel that, well, I have nothing more to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Or most certainly I have nothing to learn from somebody younger.
Right.
And I love that story because
Right.
you can always learn from somebody younger.
Yeah.
There are people, it's called reverse mentoring.
Yeah.
There are people that actively seek out younger folks, by decades,
Yeah.
to be able to say, hey, what do you know that I don't know?
Yeah.
But usually it's a technology component, but
Right.
certainly other things as well.
Yeah.
And you're right, that learner's mindset always.
But and it's people like that. So again, my second example of this was I was at another networking event in the city, and this guy was there, and essentially he's at Columbia University in the city. He's a doctor, he's a PhD, and he's a professor, all these things. And he essentially, Columbia University paid me to teach him entrepreneurship because they wanted. Now he did clinical studies too, so he had these different things that he focused on. And he knew that he was so narrow-minded because he was in the education system. It's about like staying in the guidelines,
right,
and just knowing what's given to you, right? Obviously, you do your own research and stuff, but so he couldn't step out of that. So for him to take risks and to do these different things, it was so far for him. But again, perfect example. I'm at a networking event. I'm out there talking, having conversations with people. Next thing you know, Columbia University is hiring me to teach somebody who I would never expect. Right. I would be teaching. Right. Huge. So point being is that these events, to your point, Kim, you never know who you're going to rub shoulders with. It could be your next employer. It could be your next, a partner in a business venture. It could be somebody who's going to connect you with a key person. There are so many examples over the years that I have of being at these events and meeting people that have introed me to the next person, or, so on and so forth. So it's just like being at these events are good. And then on top of it, because this is just not a networking event, you're learning something. So, this is hitting multiple birds, with one stone at one event. So I'm really excited for that. What is one thing, you said this on the podcast that we didn't say yet here today, but I think, again, it stuck with me about if you could go back, what you would do differently earlier in your career.
Absolutely.
What would it be?
I sleptwalked through my career. I did not grow.
Yeah.
And if you have intentional growth, that is the secret sauce. Yes, you have to put all the competencies together.
Yeah.
But most people, any kind of growth is circumstantial growth, marriage, children,
right.
Jobs switches. But that's different than actually intentionally saying, hey, I want to be a different person today, than I was, 10 years ago.
Right.
And then people aren't doing that. And that's really the secret sauce to your success.
Yeah.
When you start realizing that, what I always say is, and again, I've lived it, you're expecting that promotion.
Yeah.
And you may have done a really good job. But if you're the same person that you were when you walked in the door, there's really no reason for them to promote you because you're fulfilling the need of what they wanted 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when you started.
Yeah.
But when you start showing them somebody different, you're showing up as somebody different. They're seeing that growth. They're feeling that growth.
Right.
Right. It's not a facade.
Yeah.
Like they're literally feeling the growth. That's when you're going to pave the way for yourself to go quicker.
Right.
Than that normal promotion path.
Yeah.
Sure.
It hit me like a brick to the head when you said, I didn't change.
None.
As I was growing, as I was in my 20s and early 30s, and I really thought about that for myself, right? And I'm like, damn, what have I done to change? I've taken different courses, I've had to change mindset stuff, and I realized that there were bigger things that I could have done earlier that I didn't, right? I definitely changed in certain ways, but most people don't even think about changing because why would I change?
Or they're stubborn.
Right.
Set in your ways.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing.
Right.
But before we end off here, we got to have our girl Kim here.
Oh boy.
Kimmy Buck.
Yeah, I know it's my new name. It's funny. We actually, I haven't actually shared this with anybody, but my agency, they said we have to start bringing you into the podcast space. So they have me interviewing these movers and shakers, like the guys on Squid Game, The Challenge, and in the UFC, and they have a podcast that they actually created for me called The Tea.
Wow.
So I'm now I have a
it.
new name, a new identity, and now I have a new podcast. So
let's go.
We're gonna absolutely be doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
100%.
But so
What was your question?
So I would love for you to end us off with a positive mindset to end us off on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Hit us with a little positivity. What do you got for us?
Absolutely. Okay, so I think what's on top of mind today is always try something new. No matter how old you are, no matter how hesitant you may be, learn something, try something new. For instance, when I'm in broadcasting, and something that has always been a little bit of a hindrance to me is, we all have our passions and, hobbies, but sports may not be one of my top hobbies. I'm going to encourage myself to learn more about sports. Just like when I was younger and I wasn't really, when you're younger, you're not really that into politics.
Right.
I would put myself in spaces where I was forced to learn. And I want to do that in my next 5 years, not sports only, but things that I'm not really well-versed in. I want to learn that language.
Out of your comfort zone.
I want to get there. I want to be, what do they say? Speak for know a little bit about a lot. Have 10 seconds of content to use, no matter who you're talking to. I would say try something new, even if it's not trying a new business venture. Try something new. Try learning something new. There's always room to grow, and I think if you find the leader in you, you'll certainly see a reward. Yes, you'll see a return on your investment.
I love that.
I think that's awesome because you know what it does is, and a lot of people struggle with conversation.
Oh, totally.
And when you learn something else, all of a sudden you have a new window to talk to somebody you wouldn't be able to talk to more than how's the weather or how you doing. You learn something new, and then all of a sudden, wow, this is a person I never would have talked to. And to your point, maybe that's a situation that's going to open up a career door.
Absolutely. 100%. Broaden your horizons.
Yeah. I love that. And just quickly unpacking that, what I love about it is you are saying for the next 5 years, you're going to insert yourself in uncomfortable positions that you're not used to. And that's amazing. That's where people grow. So that's awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
I hope that for everybody watching. And again, before we pop off here, before Robbie pops us off here, again, one more time, where's the event? What's the date?
Absolutely. So it is on Wednesday, March 13th, 6 p.m. at 618 Restaurant in Freehold.
Oh, and also tickets, 50 a person. We'll get the registration to you, and it will get you a seat in the house. We're going to be upstairs. It'll be a huge room of people at 618. Will be some food, a few drinks, networking opportunities, and what $50 gets you nowhere these days. Why wouldn't you come?
Exactly.
$50 is a Starbucks coffee.
That's exactly right. So it's Elevate Leadership 2024.
Love it. And is there a website they can go to?
Yes, so they can go to my website, preparedleaderconsulting.com. You'll see the link to the tickets there. Anything that they want to know about the event, they can certainly reach out to me or any of us here today.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys. And we'll see you there. Look forward to it.
All right. Have a good day.